Say unto him, my brethren, and my father's house, which were in the land of Canaan, are come unto me, and the men are shepherds, for their trade has been to feed cattle, and they have brought their flocks and their herds and all that they have. And it shall come to pass, when the Pharaoh shall call you, he shall say, what is your occupation? That ye shall say, thy servant's trade hath been about cattle from our youth until now, both we and also our fathers, that we may dwell in the land of Goshen. And every shepherd is an abomination unto Egyptians. I bet they liked steak, though. But anyways, we look at this, and as I look this over, every time they had went to Egypt or someplace, they lied about what they did or who that have been discriminated against or talked about badly. I can remember when I was a child and I didn't know any better, which is not an excuse because I need to find out, that they didn't talk bad about the Jews, but the Jews were always put in a position to where, well, they're Jewish, or they done this or done that. And we know that God's protection on the people have always made them in a place where they've had a prestige or they had something, but people always look down on other people, sometimes those that prosper more than we do. And why do we get so upset when somebody gets something we don't have, and then we make a big deal about it, rather than being thankful? The way I look about it is they got it, and if I want it, then I have a good opportunity to do it myself and have it. But we look the wrong way. We're always just, I don't call it negative, which it is, but it's the type of thing that we just always want to, maybe we're trying to make ourselves feel better because we don't have it. But if somebody's got something neat, and especially if I want it, I want to know about it. I want to know how they did it. I want to know what you had. And another thing is we don't stop to think about what we have. Sometimes we want something, the duties or the responsibility that goes with it, we may not like. Many times I got a toy at the house I wanted for years, and it took me 15, 18 years to get it all built and go and everything, and now I'm working on it. And I told my wife, I should have never got this thing. If I could find somebody, I'd almost pay them to take it. And that's what happens sometimes when we think we really want, and it ain't what we thought it was. And so I've been praying about it, and I repented about it because it isn't that God didn't want me to have it. God knew that I didn't need it. How many of us wish we had a lot more money? There's circumstances that go with that. And God, and a few years back, I know the reason I don't have a lot of money is because now I know that we can't handle it. And so because we did them things, and so it makes me feel a little bit better that I can lean on God for them conditions, and He takes care of them, and He takes care of them better than I ever thought. And that's the same thing what Joseph is doing here. Jacob moved his whole family to Egypt, but they wanted to live apart from the Egyptians. I noticed people coming to this valley from other areas, and they didn't like it where they were at, but they bring all them troubles with them. If they didn't like it, I think now they have a chance that maybe they think they got control of what's. That never happens. To ensure this, Joseph told them to let Pharaoh know that they were shepherds. Although Pharaohs may have been sympathetic to shepherds, the Pharaoh may have been sympathetic to shepherds, for he was probably descendants from nomadic tribes in his lineage. And the Egyptian culture would not willingly accept shepherds in their midst. And as we look at this, and we're going to see as we go along, the shepherds wind up being more prosperous than the Egyptians. And where did Joseph come from? Now he's second in line in Egypt. And matter of fact, it doesn't matter. Anything going on in Egypt, Joseph had control over it. The Pharaoh was nothing more than a figurehead, like in England, the Queen. She's a figurehead. She gets everything she wants, but she don't really have control of anything. Joseph has taken control of it. He's regulated the food. He's regulated the property. He's regulated the work that goes on. Everything goes through Joseph. And the Pharaoh's just sitting back being a figurehead. The strategy worked, and Jacob's family was able to benefit from Pharaoh's generosity as well as from the Egyptians' prejudice. Our country is very prejudiced. The reason is our government is prejudiced. They outlaw prejudice, being prejudiced, but they promote it. And so you go to almost any country in the world, and people are people. If you're in France, everybody's a Frenchman. But if you're in this country, we got African American, we got Indian American, we got Irish American. We're all Americans. And when I used to work in the prison, they would come up on them things, and they would want to, and always trying to do something or take it. And when it would give your ethnic background in there was boxes, and at the end there was the last one. It was called Other. Well, they was trying to get me, and what they said was, well, what do we write in Other? I put U.S. citizen. I mean, who cares what your ethnic background is? We're Americans. Our citizenship is in here now. It's not in some foreign country where you came from. And but it promotes it. That bothers me. But I guess we'll all get over it. And but we're all citizens of the United States. The homeless, the rich, the middle class. We're all citizens of the United States, and I see that with the election going on, when they start talking about fellow Americans, or we're going to make America great again. We're not cutting down anything. We're not going to. The President of the United States is supposed to be for the people, not for himself. The people in Congress are supposed to be for the people, and not for themselves. We're supposed to better the country, not ourselves. And that's what happened with Joseph here. He would do certain things, and he would always better the situation around him, always work with the ones that were opposed to him, and things turned out great. It's just a little thing that we could take to heart as we go through life. It's not me, it's everybody. If you got a team, let's say a football team, because they got more players on a football team than most athletic things. They have to work as a team in order to complete and get the thing done. But who gets the credit? The quarterback. But he also gets it if it's bad. It's the same with baseball. They always give it to the pitcher. What if they had somebody that couldn't hit the ball or catch the ball or throw the ball? Where would the pitcher be? So we need to work as a team. Not only that, but we work as a team, and we always had somebody who is an exceptional player on the team. Encourage them, help them, because that's going to make them feel better, and it's going to make you win as a team. And it's the same with the United States. These people running for office, and they get elected, then they ought to work with everybody to help the people rather than still discriminate and do things. And now we got a guy that wants to run for president, and he's going to tell you everything he's done for 47 years, he's done nothing. What makes you think he's going to do something now? These are the things that we need to know. But there's a lot of people that want to get on the bandwagon and just take the ride, and then guess where they're going to ride to? Downhill. And we don't understand all that or take it to heart. I'm not trying to be political here. I'm trying to just we as Americans, citizens, need to be one and be united. This is called United States, not individual states. And right now we seem to want to do that. Governors want to break a little statistic that I've seen. All the states that were not closed for COVID-19 are doing better than those that are closed. So what does that mean? Them people are working together and doing the right thing. They're not going against each other or somebody having control. We as Christians ought to do the same thing. It's just like we shouldn't, South Valley Baptists, they're closed because they didn't do the right things. We don't need to badmouth them. We need to encourage them and have them help to do the right thing so that they can be open. It is very important for Christian churches to be open and worshiping God rather than cutting each one down, because they're just as much a child of God as we are. When they're hurting, then we ought to be helping them a little bit, not saying I told you so. And take into heed what's going on with what's going on. We need to work harder ourselves. We not need to relax and say, oh, we're doing a good job. We're not. We haven't reached out to do everything we want, but God on our side, we can do everything. Let's go to chapter 47. 46 is kind of set up. 47 is kind of, it's still a continuation of what's been going on. Then Joseph came and told Pharaoh and said, my father and my brethren and their flocks and their herds and all they have are come out of the land of Canaan, and behold, they are in the land of Goshen. And he took some of his brethren, even 5 men, and presented them unto the Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh said unto his brethren, what is your occupation? And they said unto the Pharaoh, thy servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers. And they said moreover unto Pharaoh, for to sojourn in the land we come, for thy servants have no pasture for their flocks, for the famine is sore in the land of Canaan. And now therefore we pray thee, let thy servants dwell in the land of Goshen. There's a lot of things that we can look at about the land of Goshen and where it was located. It was when things were going great, the land of Goshen was kind of barren. It's just not barren, but they were not populated. There was all kinds of grass and stuff because it's like a delta. And so things grow there regardless. But what's growing in the delta is for animals, not for people. And so therefore, the people can't survive there. But people who work with animals, it's a great place for them. And then not only that, but it was, like I said, it was unpopulated. It was away from the other population of Egypt. And the Egyptians were good for them. So it's like the Egyptians are probably thinking, yeah, well, they can have that land because we ain't going to live on it. But it's good for them and what they're doing. And I don't know if you realize it, but people in this country here who raise animals are fairly wealthy if they do it right. And there's a great loss in it sometimes, but most of the time, you go to the supermarket, where do you think that stuff in the in the meat counter come from? I used to work on a farm when I was younger. It's not the best smelling place. It's not the quietest place. It's a lot of hard work at all different hours of the day and types of weather. There's things you have to do that you wouldn't even do for anything else, because it's very important and it's hard work. And so what they earn there, they deserve, as far as I'm concerned. It ought to be regulated more, because we got these things called commodities and stuff, and draw a blank, where the anyways, where they sell stuff and stuff. What's that called? Stock market, all that stuff. It goes up and down and fluctuates. The people running the stock market and the stock exchanges, I think, are reaping where they shouldn't. But that's here nor there. But that makes the world go around, and so they know what to do with their product on the way the stock exchange is regulated. Where did I leave off? I'll look up there and tell me right away. 4. Okay, we're in 48:4. 47:4. What come my pages? Oh, here it is. And Pharaoh, this is 5. And Pharaoh spoke unto Joseph, saying, Thy father and thy brethren are come unto thee. The land of Egypt is before thee, and the best of the land make thy father and brethren to dwell. In the land of Goshen let them dwell, and if thou knowest any man of activity among them, then make him rulers over my cattle. Because they were proud of their occupation, the Pharaoh likes Joseph, said, go ahead. Turn my herds loose over there too, and let them take care of them. So it's a win-win situation for everybody. And 7, and Joseph brought in Jacob his father, and set him before Pharaoh. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Jacob, How old art thou? And Jacob said unto Pharaoh, The days of the years of my pilgrims are 130 years. Few and evil have the days of the years of my life been, and have not obtained unto the days of the years of my life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrims. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from before the Pharaoh. How many people would even think about that? I got one. It's us Christians. How many times do we ask to bless God? We're always asking Him to bless us. God likes the blessing too. God likes to see how we're working. And how do we bless God? By doing what He wants us to do. And we don't think about that sometimes. I remember the first time I had been a Christian and somebody said something about, did you bless God today? I didn't understand. And so we need to know that we need to bless God just as well as He blesses us. And so here Jacob is before the Pharaoh, before the king, and he blesses the king or Pharaoh. So what a neat step this is. They're coming out of a place where they have nothing. They're coming into a land that they really don't want to be in, but yet they bless the Pharaoh. And then the Pharaoh has really blessed them and said, well, you take care of my livestock. You have the land. You can have the best of whatever you want. And when they say that, that means they're going to get food. They're going to get whatever they need. And who are the Egyptians? They despise shepherds. But yet, I think they're changing their mind a little bit. Not much, but it's pretty good. And in 11, and Joseph placed his father and his brethren and gave them possessions in the land of Egypt, in the best of the land, and in the land of Ramses, as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph nursed his father and his brethren and all his father's household with bread and according to their families. And there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore. So that the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan fainted by reason of the famine. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the corn which they bought, and Joseph brought the money unto the Pharaoh's house. The neat thing about Joseph was he was doing exactly what God wanted him to do. Joseph probably never thought about extorting some of the money or keeping a little under. He was taking everything to the Pharaoh and showing it to him. He was presenting it. He was totally open. He didn't have two sets of books, okay? And so this was something that really encouraged the Pharaoh too, because we know as we look at any time that the Israelis went into a foreign country, taken prisoner, that there was people that always honored God, which made it. We look at Daniel when he went to Babylon, the things that happened there. And so as we see that you continue to look to God, regardless of the situation, it affects everybody around you. And like right now, we got a lot of missionaries that are in foreign fields that are persecuted, but they do exactly what God wants them to do. And we had missionaries that thrown in jail and stuff, and they continue to worship God, and realizing that the prison was a great mission field for them, rather than saying they were sorry to be there. No doubt, as we read Scripture and we look in between the lines a little, Joseph did the same thing when he was in prison. Yeah, we know that he was not presentable as far as his appearance, because when they brought him out of the prison, they had him shaved and given him clothes and given him a bath and everything. And these were the conditions he lived under. But it didn't bother him because he was going through God. And they got to know that because many times. Same with Paul. When Paul was thrown in prison or watched, the jailers, a lot of them wound up being saved and their families. So there's something good in everything that happens to us if we take it for the betterment of God. And when the money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, Give us bread, for why should we die in this presence? For the money faileth. Now they're still coming to Joseph. Everything. And now Joseph, according to this, has pretty well collected all the money in the known world. Not just Egypt, because they have come to buy food and everything, and Joseph has always taken that money to the Pharaoh. And now, how long was the famine supposed to be? 7 years. And now we're down to about 2 or 3 left, and it's really getting tight. Nothing is growing. They don't have nothing. Everything they have given away as far as their money and financial possessions. But what comes next? 16. And Joseph said, Give your cattle, and I will give you for your cattle if money fail. And they brought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses and for the flocks and for the cattle and for the herds and for their asses, and fed them with bread for all their cattle for that year. Here cattle is categorized as all livestock. And so there will be cattle in it, and there will be horses, any kind of livestock, maybe even chickens. So what we got to realize is them animals are worth money, and so now they're giving them to get food. And when the year was ended, they came unto him the second year and said unto them, We will not hide it from my Lord, Now our money is spent, my lord, and hath had, and also hath our herds of cattle. There is not aught left in the sight of my lord, but our bodies and our hands. Therefore shall we die before thine eyes, both we and our land. Buy us and our land for the bread, and we and our land will be servants unto the Pharaoh, and give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land be desolate. Only thing they got left now is themselves and their land. And so they're trading all that for food. It's called seed or corn or whatever. It's food. And that's how bad the famine is. And just because Joseph can interpret the dreams, God interpreted the dreams for Joseph and was prudent in what he did, he has control of everything. Just think of it. One guy has control of everything that's going on in the area. I mean, it's a large area. It's a known world. And this famine just wasn't in certain areas. It was all over the world. 7 years without anything growing. Can't imagine it. We got people that complain when they got one crop that fails, which is disastrous. But let's think, for 7 years, you got nothing. And Joseph brought all the land of Egypt for the Pharaoh, for the Egyptians sold every man his field, because of the famine prevailed over them. So the land became Pharaoh's. And for the people, he removed them to cities from one end of the borders of Egypt, even to the other, therefore. So the land belongs to the Pharaoh. The people don't get to stay on it. They bring them into cities. And sometimes, well, God is in this one quite a bit. But in our land, for a lot of years, we had farmers and ranchers and stuff, and they were all rural areas. They were all producing everything. And then pretty soon, there become factories and stuff for manufacturing. And the people from the rural areas moved to the cities. And if you look at that and what's going on, that's when trouble started. People like to live on top of each other, but they can't get along with each other. It's really bad. I'm getting so I may want to give up my driver's license because I get so anxious when I go down the road and all these people on the road here in Pahrump. I know when I first came here, man, it was kind of neat. There wasn't probably 2 or 3 cars went by my house in a day. Now I got dozens of them, and I don't know where they're coming from. There ain't that many people live there. So it's just, some of them are just driving around. Well, we got all these swap meets. They bring a lot of traffic. So I can just think of ways to do this. So now the people have moved off the Pharaoh's land. He has put them in cities. Now this is better for the herdsmen or the Israelites, because they're going to stay in the rural area, because that's where the cattle and all the livestock live, and they're going to maintain it. Not only theirs, but also the Pharaoh's. And now all the animals and all the land, remember that, except for Goshen. Think about this now. We don't hear anything about, because this land in Goshen was given to them by the Pharaoh hasn't taken it back, because they don't need to take it back, because they've had animals or whatever it is to trade. But as we read earlier, Joseph was going to take care of them. So because of Joseph, they had the food, and they didn't have to get rid of their animals. And not only that, but they're also taking care of the Pharaoh's animals. So this is quite a endeavor if you stop and think about it. And all they have to do is reproduce, animals and people. And they're doing a good job of it. 21. And as for the people, he removed them from, I did that one. Only, 22, only the land of the priests were bought he not, for the priests had a portion assigned to them of Pharaoh, and did eat their portion with Pharaoh and gave them. Therefore they sold not their land. This was probably, even though we're looking at this, and it says priest here, and we know that Israel had priests. Okay? I don't think they were Pharaoh's priests, but the priests there. So they were, I think the Pharaoh was taking something from God too, and allowing the priest to have things to help him not only spiritually, but financially. And if we look at that and the things to do, it comes back to us giving our tithes to the church. When we do that, the church prospers, and so do we. Well, how can we prosper when we give our money away? We're not giving it away. God's going to maintain it for us. You know, for everything that, the way I look at it, for every tithe you give or offering, you're drawing interest from God. And God pays more interest than anybody else, no matter what. So we have to realize that. I'm not telling you to tithe so you get the interest. But it does help, because the reason we do it is because we love God. And we can't outgive God. We've heard that many times. And not only that, but I've been shown many times that I can't give all my money away to God, because he keeps giving me some back, and it just keeps multiplying. I'm not saying I'm rich or anything, but I'm talking about multiplying for food and for health and for a few other things that come with tithing to the Lord. I firmly believe that because of our tithes or our offering, our health is something that God takes care of. Whether we get something and get over it right away, or he takes care of it, or he allows us to live for a long time where other people don't live under the same conditions. My thought, and the way I interpret it from God's word, is he takes care of us. And what's wrong with going to heaven anyways? Maybe I need to do something so he'll bring me to heaven and get me out of this situation. But he has something for us to do here. And our encouragement and our joy through the Lord spreads among not only the Christians, but the lost people as well. And that is our main objective, is to tell the lost people. We can't save them, but we need to tell them. Like this. 23, then Joseph said unto the people, Behold, I have brought you this day and your land for the Pharaoh. Lo, there is a seed for you, and ye shall sow the land. And it shall come to pass in the increase there that ye shall give a fifth part unto the Pharaoh, and 4 parts shall be your own, for seed for the field, and for your food, and for them your household, and for food for your little ones. God asked for 10%. But a fifth is still not bad. That's 20% if you don't know math. And to keep 80% is still a good deal. So if first sharecroppers, right? So this is a good deal to all the way around, because the seed's going to be furnished, the land's going to be furnished, and you're going to get to keep a fifth of it, even though you don't. You're going to get to keep 80% of it, even though you don't own the land. That's I think, a good deal. Is Joseph smart? Yes, he is, because he follows God. And I'll tell you what, Joseph didn't come up with this plan, God did. We have to realize that sometimes. 25, and they said, Thou hast saved our lives. Let us find grace in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants. And Joseph made it a law over the land of Egypt unto this day that Pharaoh should have a fifth part, except the land of the priests only, which become not Pharaoh's. I like this statement right here where it says in 25, for they said, Thou hast saved our lives. Let us find grace in the sight of my Lord. My Lord here is the Pharaoh. And it could extend onto God later because of what Joseph done, but they're not upset about what the Pharaoh has done. How many of us get upset about paying taxes? Sometimes we do. Sometimes we begrudge it. Why are they taking so much of the money? But there's a reason for that. Of course, right now, with the way the government's trying to run us, I don't think they deserve any money. But anyways, that's the reason we pay. Not only that, but our taxes go for security of the country and protection. And I get a little upset when we're trying to protect other countries or change them. They need to follow our example rather than just getting on the bandwagon free. A little insert for me. And Jacob and Joseph promised to I ain't done there. I ain't got there. And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions therein, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years, so the whole age of Jacob was 147 years. And the time drew nigh, and Israel must die. And he called his son Joseph and said to him, If now I have found grace in thy sight, put, I pray thee, thy hand under thy thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me, and bury me not, I pray thee, in Egypt. But I will lie with my fathers, and thou shalt carry me out of Egypt, and bury me in the burying place. And he said, I will do this thou hast said. And he said, Swear unto me. And he swore unto him. And Israel bowed himself upon the bed, upon his bed's head. So Jacob had Joseph promise to bury him in his homeland. A few things were written in this culture. So a person's word, few things were written in this culture. So a person's word then carried as much force as a written contract today or more. How come we can't do that no more? Because we're all liars. Think about it. We have good intentions, but if it goes against what we think we want to do, then we do it. And people today seem to find it easy to say, I didn't mean that. No means no, don't it? I think. There ain't too many letters to mess around with there. Let your word be as a binding as a written contract. If your word is going through God, it better be a contract, verbal or not, because you have used God and his sovereignty to make that contract. We all do it. I don't know why. We do break contracts with God. But if we stop and think about it, how do you feel about that? The one who has given you everything, the one that can do anything, and yet we want to break a contract with him. I heard a little joke one time, and I thought it was kind of neat, but now I think it's pretty true. These two guys were flying on an airplane, and the engine went out, and they got real afraid what was going on. Of course, they had 4 engines, and when they got down to the 3rd engine going out, and one of them was a preacher. He sat next to this guy, and this guy says, "Oh, Lord, if you get me out of here, I'll give you half of everything I got." So they landed, they got on the ground, and when they all got out, this preacher went up to that guy, and he said, "Brother, I heard what you said, that you're going to give the Lord half of what you got." He said, "No, I'm not going to do that. I made a better contract with him. I told him if I ever get on another airplane, I'll give you everything." So we always do that, and we always change it for ourselves. And so these types of things are always going on. We're all the way up to chapter 48. And it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, "Behold, thy father is sick." And he took him and his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, and one told Jacob and said, "Behold, thy son Joseph cometh unto thee." And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. And Jacob said unto Joseph, God Almighty appeared unto me in Luz and in the land of Canaan, and blessed me. And he said unto me, "Behold, I will make thee fruitful and multiply thee, and I will make thee a multitude of people, and I will give this land to thy seed after thee for an everlasting possession. And now thy 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born unto thee in the land of Egypt before I came unto thee unto Egypt, are mine, as Reuben and Simeon. They shall be mine, and thy issue which besettest after them shall be thine, and shall be called after the name of their brethren in the inheritance. And as for me, when I come from Pandan, Rachel died by me in the land of Canaan in the way, when yet there was but little way to come to Ephraim, and bury her there in the way of Ephraim, the same as Bethlehem. And Israel beheld Joseph's son and said, Who are these? And Joseph said unto his father, They are my sons, whom God hath given me in this place. I'm going a little further, get my notes here. And he said, Bring them, and I pray thee unto thee, and I will bless them. Now the eyes of Israel were dim for age. Oh, we heard this before. So that he could not see. And he brought them near unto him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said unto Joseph, I had not brought to see my face, and lo, God has showed me also thy seed. And Joseph brought them out from between his knees. They were small. Think about that. And Ephraim on his right hand toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh on his left hand toward Israel's right hand. And he brought them near unto him, and Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger. And his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands wittingly. And Manasseh was the firstborn, and he blessed Joseph and said, God before whom my father Abraham and Isaac did walk, and God which fed me all my life long unto this day. The angel which redeemeth me from all evil, bless the lads, and let my name be named on them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into the multitude in the midst of the earth. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him, and he held by his father's hand to remove from Ephraim the hand unto Manasseh's head. But Joseph said unto his father, Not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put thy right hand upon his. And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become multitude of nations. And he blessed them that day, saying, in these shall Israel bless, saying, God makes thee as Ephraim and as a Manasseh. And he set Ephraim before Manasseh. Not the right thing to do in the culture of that day, but it seems to be common in Israel. We see many of the things that happened in Israel from Jacob all the way down, where the younger was blessed over the older. And Jacob gave Ephraim instead his older brother Manasseh a greater blessing than Joseph. When Joseph objected, Jacob refused to listen, for God had told him that Ephraim would become greater. God often works in unexpected ways. When he chose people to fulfill his plan, he always goes deeper than appearance, tradition, or position. He sometimes surprises us by choosing the less obvious person. God can use you to carry out his plan, even if you don't think you have